Good morning to the Gruber Morning Show, Tuesday edition. I am Mark Schaffner,
I'm Richard Beach.
and glad to have you on this morning. We're going to start by talking about the background that we have a little bit. This is another fantastic Pete Gruber background.
Yes, it is. He sent this. He posted this on Facebook not too long ago, giving the world an update on his 6-week or 3-week venture out in Europe.
Yeah, I think it just kind of feels like 6 weeks right now.
Probably.
We miss him a lot over here. This has been taken in the Bordeaux region of France. Looks like an old time winery. Grapes growing in the foreground, beautiful little building in the background, and I'm kind of jealous.
I'm very jealous. This picture looks like you can smell how you can sense how crisp that air is. It's just perfect.
It's just gorgeous. You know, many years ago I spent a vacation in Italy visiting family who were stationed at the Aviano Air Base at the time, or Army base, and we had some of the grapes there, and they tasted so different and more flavorful than what we had here. They almost tasted like little tomatoes.
Oh my goodness!
It was such a unique flavor compared to here, and it was so good. So I can understand why the French wines win all the awards that they do.
Absolutely. Well, living in a place like that, if looks had anything to do with it, they'd still win.
Yes, by all means. Oh, and I love the sign on your laptop. It's all green screened in. So, let's talk about those signs just a little bit. First, George is on this morning. He says, good morning, and good morning, George. We wanted to show off a little bit of the signs that we have. George sent us this little gift, and I think it is funny and appropriate, and they're great. These are parking signs, and if you wanted to bring parking signs up in the background, that way people can get a little bit better of a look. Essentially, these signs say something to the effect of, "You're parked here in my EV spot illegally. I don't park in front of your gas pump and go and leave." So these, George, thank you for sending these to us. I appreciate that very much. I wanted to make sure that we show that. I think you might, if you look those up on eBay, I think you might even be able to buy them from George.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I just have to say these are very convincing too. On the back, I'll go ahead and take this off since it's keying out a little bit.
Yeah.
On the back, you guys can't see it, but there's sections that say what happened to the vehicle. Was it towed? Was it impounded? Was it left alone? What the name, date, make, mark, and color of the vehicle, and on all this stuff on the back. They're very convincing. If this was left on my car, I'd be thinking I was going to need to give the city of Phoenix a call.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I actually love these are stickers. They're not just signs. So you peel them off and you can paste them right on somebody's window. I love it. I think it's a great thing.
And George says that he just reposted them on eBay for sale, which means that they sold out of originally and they're back up for sale.
That's right. All right. So George, I know that George had asked us some other questions that I'm going to be consulting Pete with when he gets back, George. So looking forward to potentially meeting him, though. I think he might be in through town in a few weeks.
Yeah, we're very excited to meet you.
Yeah, that'd be great. One other thing before we get into our news channels is that I got a question this weekend from Ray Johnson. And Ray says he's going to be doing a round trip from where he lives in Nevada down to San Diego. Google Maps indicates it's about between 550 and 600 miles that he has to travel, and most of that is going to be traveled in the desert in the heat during the day. So his question, considering that you and I were talking this last week about Teslas in hot temperatures, should I take my Tesla Model S? It's a 2012. It's a P85, so it has an extended range battery, and the battery itself was replaced just a little over a year ago. Or should he take his hybrid? So it's a plug-in hybrid with the gasoline option. We'll be going up over the mountains as well So he's like, yeah, I'm not totally sure. He asked for our take on it. I
What do
know
you
that.
think?
Well, for my part, first, I think you and I both are qualified.
Mm-hmm.
We have averaged a high of about 116 all through the entire month of July. It's been miserable.
It's been a little rough, guys.
So, and the overall 24-hour temperature, that's like you take the temperature at the beginning of each hour and then at the end of the day divide by 24. Here in Phoenix, that overall temperature has been 102.7 degrees so far this month.
And what was the previous record?
99.3.
It's insane. You know, we've had some experiences over here with attempting to cook cookies.
Yeah.
On the dash of a Tesla.
Successful.
And it was successful. Next, I think, is eggs on the ground, and then maybe steak in a cast iron skillet.
I've heard people wanting to. I heard one person talking about putting together a foil oven and cooking hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's been that hot. We've been as high as 119. So anyway, to Ray's question, I'll share my experience to start with. I'm driving now a 2017 Model S 100D. At the very beginning of this heat wave here in Phoenix, drive it like I would normally drive it, and found that by the time I got done driving from relatives' houses over about 35 miles from the house, I was miserable. The air wasn't working. The car was laboring to keep the battery cool with the air conditioning from the car, and it was just a miserable experience. I changed my approach, plugged in the car when I got home, and then I would go ahead and precondition the car, because I know that preconditioning the cabin of the car turns that AC on, but it's not only drawing power from the battery, it's using that AC to help cool the battery as well. So it is truly a precondition. Ever since I've started doing that, it's been wonderful. The car performs well. The air is plenty cool. It blows plenty hard, and I feel like I'm getting better range on the battery than I was without preconditioning. The thing is, it does take a little more electricity, so I spend more time on the charger. But overall, I've actually been very happy with that particular experience, and would be something that I would recommend. Now, I know you've had some experiences as well that are not necessarily the same as mine.
Correct. Yeah. So I drive a 2014 Model S, and over the past heat wave, few weeks, it's been performing decently. You know, there are times where the air conditioning is going to shut off to protect the battery, which in turn protects me, which I'm fine with. But I did go on a relatively long jaunt down to around the Levine area from North Phoenix, and about 35 minutes to 40 minutes or so on that drive and back. On the way out there, I didn't really run into too many problems, but on the way back, as soon as I got off the 51 onto a local street, I got a little error that popped up, and it displayed a little turtle, and it said power limited, service required. Now, I don't know what the cause of that is yet. There was an active louver in the front that wasn't opening, which acts as passive cooling. So that could have been it. But as soon as that happened, I could stomp on the accelerator, and it was accelerating about as quickly as my 1993 Ford F-150. So it wasn't going quick at all. It got up, I got up to 40, 50 miles an hour as I needed to, but it was a little rough, a little scary. The other day, I went on a much shorter trek up to North Scottsdale, and so about 20 minutes on that, and it occurred again. So this could be a me problem. It could be a heat problem. It could be a Tesla problem.
Sure.
I don't know. So there have been some circumstances that warrant the level of caution that you're displaying in your email, as far as that trip goes. I mean, I've got my opinion on what he should do. What do you think he should do?
Well, very honestly, considering how hot it has been across the southwestern United States, while I love the idea of the Tesla, if you truly don't want that sitting in the back of your head that, hey, I've got an older car, even though it has a newer battery, I don't want to risk it. I have a feeling that that's probably what I would do. I actually think I would probably take the hybrid.
I agree. I'm in the same boat, and much to echo what Mark said, not because there's anything wrong with your car or anything like that, but there's, we are in an unprecedented heat wave, right? Unless you are driving in Dubai or in Kuwait, right, you don't see these temperatures on a daily basis, right? But we are now. So, personally, I'd go with the tried and true method of long distance travel until Tesla can catch up with its counterparts' abilities.
Well, and kind of the other thing, and I didn't mention this before, Ray does say in the email to me, one of the things he's concerned about is with the level of heat that the supercharging might be really slow.
Yeah.
And I did experience that a couple years back. I had at the time, a 2012 Tesla Model S, and came in, rolled into Quartzsite, which is down in the Colorado River Basin in Arizona. It's very hot down there. Usually it's between 5 and 10 degrees hotter than Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So where Phoenix has been sitting at 119, these guys have been sitting at about 125. Not just a few degrees off that Death Valley temperature that I saw recently.
No, I'm steering clear. I will not go in that direction.
The day we rolled in, it was middle of the afternoon. It's 117 outside. We think we're going to stop for 20, 30 minutes to charge up, and we find out that charging is limited because of the heat. The car's hot, the battery's hot, the outside air is hot, the car can't cool off, and charging's limited. So for Ray, if you decided to take a trek that took you a little closer to the coast, man, I'd be all in for the EV then, because you're gonna stay out of the heat. But if you're gonna end up having to go through the heat, very reluctantly, I think I'd recommend the hybrid.
Agreed. We've got some comments popping in from Instagram. We've got DAC Foundation. This is great to be here. I have a mobile battery with me.
Great to have you, and thanks for coming this morning. M. Nashat 1996 says hello on Instagram. So hello, glad to have you. And then Nolver 53
says EV is like the iconic Ioniq 5 and Kia's EV6 offer the ability to power your home. I've heard it referred to as vehicle to grid and vehicle to load. Are they one and the same?
I'm not sure if they're completely one and the same or not. I've heard vehicle to grid and I've heard vehicle to vehicle as two terms. I haven't heard vehicle to load. So maybe if Aaron has time as he's running through our questions, maybe he would be able to look that up as well.
Yeah, vehicle to load. I haven't. I believe, just looking up this very briefly, it looks like it's the ability to power external devices, right? So if I want to plug in my TV to the car, I can do that.
Okay.
I want to plug my TV or my car into an Xbox on a camping trip and into TV. I can power that and do that thing. That's just
so vehicle to load then is the one-town outlets that you have in the back of the Ford Lightning.
Exactly.
Vehicle to grid is charging your home from your car, or giving power to your home from your car when the power goes out.
Correct. So, I mean, they're kind of similar, right? You're powering external appliances using the electricity in your battery, but different applications.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like every manufacturer has their own little take on it. Like Ford is really going into bi-directional charging. So you can plug in your Lightning into your home and empower your home. Pretty soon they'll be able to actually help out with putting energy back into the grid. So there's a lot of things that it feels like it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit. Everybody has their own little take on it and their own little verbiage on it.
Sure, good point. And Aaron, that's kind of sounds like the charging standards that we've been, quote-unquote standards that we've been working with. Although we're down to now just CCS and NACS, so that's all good.
That is good.
George also comes back to us, some advice for you, Richard. It says, if you clean the AC condensers, it helps a lot in hotter areas, just like a home AC. Totally makes sense. It says they all need to be cleaned and fin brushed sometimes too. They even sell condenser cleaner in a spray can.
Interesting.
So it sounds like you might be needing to run your car over to Gruber Motors and say, hey, Victor, take a quick look at this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is that's next on my checklist. I'm gonna bring it right on over and give my non-mechanical background opinion on what's going on, and then let the professionals take it from there.
Sure, by all means, by all means. Crunch is back.
How's it going, Crunch?
Good to see you today. Says he's like number 4. Caught up soon. Just saw the short with Chief Engineer Ken.
Ah.
Can you tell me more about that particular short?
So we've got a few different shorts with him. He likes to sport his propeller beanie hat, you know, the one it's like a rainbow colored all the way around.
Okay.
And he's asking when we're gonna have that, the GMC branded version of that in the swag store.
That's a good question. We'll have to look into getting some of those and getting them into the swag store.
You know, we're starting to build that out. We've got our first bit of swag up and ready to go.
Yes, we do. In fact, if Jesse, if you're ready, we can turn salesman for a couple of minutes here and introduce this a little more formally now.
I think once we get a hold on the market for this, we'll get a hold on the market for that. Because it's a hot market.
Yeah, I think so. What we're talking about, of course, we've talked about these a few times. Sunglass cases, and we've got a local vendor here in Phoenix that hand makes these for us. They're made out of a full grain leather. They're fantastic looking. This is the one that I use myself for my glasses here for the sunglasses, because it's where I can't be on the podcast if I don't have my glasses on.
That's right.
But these they're fantastic. They won't scratch or anything. Made with the full grain leather, Gruber logo on the front. With the first 100 that we're selling are going to have signature series. On the back with the signature series, it's kind of hard to see here, but you have the Gruber Motor Company and actually Pete's signature on it. And we are offering personalization for these. If somebody wants to get a signature series or a standard sunglasses case, they're going to be able to do things like personalize, maybe put their VIN number on the back or something like that. So looking forward to seeing these get sold as well.
Got the images up here.
Awesome. So there's a better look with the some of the sunglass cases, and they can be just used as glasses, any kind of glasses case.
I'll tell you, these things are really cool. So I've lost just about every single pair of sunglasses I've ever had. Every pair of prescription glasses I've ever had. You guys have never seen me with clear glasses. Well, I need them. I just can't find them. Since I've been using this, I haven't lost my sunglasses yet.
Great.
Hopefully I won't, because I like this so much. It's more of a priority to me than these $20 CVS glasses.
Sure.
And so I can hold on to this. So it's helped me out. I did also want to show y'all. I just so happen to have some leather. This is what these sunglass cases start out as. Just a flat piece of fabric. And somehow, through some magic that I am not aware of, comes out as this. I think that's really cool.
It's a pretty cool process. I've been to the vendor's place and saw them hand making some of these, and it's definitely a pretty cool process. Right now, they come in a burgundy, a red. It's a very dark red, the blue, and the brown. And so, depending on what people decide they want, there may be other colors available in the future as well.
Absolutely. What's your favorite color, Mark?
Oh, it's got to be between that navy blue and this dark red. I like both of them. Navy blue is my favorite color. Totally. It's I love blues. Most of the time when you see me in a shirt here, you're seeing me in blues. But my current kind of favorite color is that candy apple red that Mazda puts on their recent release cars.
Yeah.
You see an MX-5 driving down the road and they're candy apple red, and it's just like, wish they would make a Tesla with that color.
Yeah. Well, hopefully soon with the cherry red that they have coming out.
I'm hoping so. I'm
a fan of the blue.
So, DAC Foundation on Instagram is on here. Thanks for joining us again. And it says, I do a 6,500 MLS tour with my 2014 Tesla. It says, I make cappuccino on my Tesla with the battery. That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome. And then George is back again. He's with the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. That's his moniker. It says, on the first online to buy the Mr. Pete on the Beach vacation pic shirt.
We got to get cranking on that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get some of those. Yeah, that was George. That was a great vacation pic that you gave us.
Between a T-shirt with Pete's face photoshopped onto that and a Gruber Motor Company propeller hat, you've got a rocking outfit going on.
Oh, once we get that, we'll have to get one of the engineers, maybe Ken, to do that.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome. Then finally on TikTok, Oner, says, hello, greetings from Belarus.
Welcome. Glad to have you.
Keep the questions coming in, guys. We love when you guys tell us where you're coming from as well. It helps us to know that we have an international flavor. And I know that we get people from all over the world.
Oh, yeah. We've had people as far as Kuwait, and as seemingly remote places as Nigeria, in France, Italy, Germany, UK. We've had people from all over the place. South America, Brazil is kind of a popular one.
Yeah, has been more recently. Well, you ready to talk some news?
Let's do it.
First article that we have is a European-centered article, kind of why we have the European picture today. The EVs are growing in popularity quickly. In June of this year, electric vehicles have outsold diesels for the first time.
That's amazing.
So
my understanding is Europe has kind of this love relationship with diesel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Diesel fuel is similar in price, and in many cases, it's less in price than gasoline in Europe. Gasoline tends to sell in that region of the world for a premium price compared to other regions. Diesel, since it has more energy density, there's more energy in diesel per liter than there is in gasoline, tends to lead to better performance in cars and stuff like that. In fact, Aaron, I think you drive isn't your F-250 a diesel?
Oh, yes, it is.
How has your experience been?
It's amazing. There's no need for gas. You have electric vehicles and you have diesel. That's how it should be.
That's awesome.
No, I used to be a fishing guide, and I did fishing tournaments, and I was introduced to diesels pretty young. And so one of the first tow vehicles that we used was a diesel Excursion, and going up the hills is just with the bass boat on the back is just amazing. It's like you don't even feel it. You go up there, you can keep it in cruise control, and it's fine. So I prefer diesel personally because towing, heavy payloads, stuff in the back, you just have not instant torque like an EV, but you have torque that gas cannot provide unless you soup it up majorly and spend a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, there's less maintenance on those too, right? Because they don't have spark plugs.
Yes, so I shouldn't say there's less maintenance. The maintenance is far and few between. As long as you change the oil and do the basic maintenance, you don't normally have as many problems. Every generation, every model has their little quirks, like the 6.0 had some stuff that they needed to do, bulletproofing is what they called it with. And the new 6.7, like I have a 6.7 Power Stroke right now, 2015 is my newer vehicle, and that one has I think it's the CP4 injector issue. They've been known to start shaving some parts and sending it through the fuel system, which can cost almost $10,000. But if you stay on top, use better diesel fuel, get the and it's not a bulletproof kit, it's a disaster kit, I think is what they call it. It prevents that from happening. So there's little things that you can do that will help you with repairs down the road.
Okay, that makes sense. And I've heard that diesels are famous for their low end torque. I mean, that's why most of the tractor trailer semis are diesel and not gasoline, because they have the better startup low end torque that you just can't get with a gasoline motor. So sales of EVs in Europe have a 15.1% market share in June of 2023. Diesels come in at 13.4%. Plug-in hybrids at 7.9%. Diesel cars have been popular in Europe for decades. Part of this has been because the gasoline prices have been high. Even the VW diesel crisis from a few years ago, where Volkswagen was changing the character of the car when it was plugged into the OBD2 sensor versus when it wasn't to bypass pollution controls. That didn't even really affect the public's desire, at least in Europe, to have diesel vehicles. But this changed in June of this year when that happened. Now, I want to make sure that you understand gasoline vehicles still lead in Europe. They have a 36% market share, and hybrids have about a 25% market share. EVs, though, compared June of 2022 to June 2023, the growth in the EV segment is about 66%. They went from about 10% of the overall market to 15%. And most of that growth in EV sales came out of gasoline and diesel sales.
And how do we know that?
Well, the article that we talked about talks about this and says the hybrid sales were essentially flat. Their market share didn't change. EV market share goes up. The diesel market share was the most pronounced one that is actually decreasing.
Okay, so we have all the other variables remaining the same besides these two. So it's obvious that that they came from diesel switching over to EV.
Yeah, it is people that are switching over to EV. And of course, the most popular model,
The Model Y.
the Model Y, the Tesla Model Y. And that is, it easily dominates the EV models that were sold. But in the first 6 months of 2023, in Europe, the Model Y is the most popular car model sold, period. Does not matter what type of fueling, whether it's electric, hybrid, gasoline, diesel, or anything else, such as hydrogen. It's the most popular car.
And I'm sure Elon is just slightly fired up about that.
I'm sure he is, at least a little bit.
You know, it's amazing that Europe is starting to move away from diesel. I thought they would be kind of the last ones to do that because, I mean, some of those diesels over there, you can get like up to 50 miles per gallon in those diesels. And that's a big range. I mean, that's pretty darn good.
You know, that's a great point, Aaron. And that high mileage, you think about with the driving culture we have here in the United States, why we haven't adopted diesel more is kind of make me shrug my shoulders. I've never totally understood that. And because of the really good mileage and range that you can get in diesel vehicles. Glad to see them moving to electric, though.
Absolutely.
Crunch came back to us with another comment, and he says, in regarding to pre-cooling cabins, says, I just learned that too. If you're plugged in, the supercooling lets your chilled interior components help the heat pump. Very, very cool. No pun intended.
But hey, that's my role on this show. Okay, I'm the one who brings the puns.
Yes. And so TikTok, Oneer says, I've been dreaming of buying a Tesla Model 3 for many years. You know, I know you're in, if I remember right, Oneer, you're in Belarus. I did see an article as we were doing my research for today's show. I didn't go into it in a lot of detail because it only applies if you're in California. But between federal incentives, California incentives, and drops in prices in the Model 3, you can get a Model 3 for less than $20,000 if you live in California, brand new.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I might need to change my address for maybe a month and go ahead and place an order.
Yeah, go find a long-lost relative that lives in California or a school friend or something like that.
Jim Bob. You know, I've known him for years.
Yes. Crunch has another comment for us, too. GMC logoed sleep mask for a supercharger napping.
I love it.
That's
hysterical.
He says, please make it durable as well. That's awesome. They're great ideas, man. Great ideas. So next thing I wanted to discuss just a little bit. This came from a news station in Los Angeles. Apparently, charging cable theft is becoming a thing.
Doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of copper wire in those things, isn't there?
Well, there is, and the charging cables themselves are potentially worth enough more than the copper wire that's in them that thieves are getting to where there's a real market for them. So what's been happening is that somebody on a bicycle, usually, so on a skateboard sometimes, walking sometimes, They will walk up to your car at night, simply unplug the car, walk to the wall, unplug the wall, roll up the cable, take off. The Nextdoor app is a popular app here in the United States, where neighbors can post things that are very hyper local to their news. And there have been people posting videos of their Ring cameras or their security cameras on the Nextdoor app that shows these thieves unplugging cables and leaving. It takes as little as 5 to 15 seconds for these thieves to do that. They even have one report where a guy confronted somebody who was starting to do that on his car. He saw I think he saw the guy coming up and walking up to his car, so he went outside immediately. The guy took off, dropped his backpack, took off on his bike, and the owner came and found another charging cable inside the backpack.
That's hysterical. It was like the Uno reverse card.
Yeah,
He's trying to take one. He earned one.
He got one
result.
instead.
Yep.
Got one instead. So, the news station, and I guess this is a real thing. So, here are some simple ways to protect yourself. Park your car in the garage. Easy enough. Now, a lot of people don't have garages. They only have the ability to go outside. So either you can charge your EV in a way that the cable is kind of hidden from street view. Another thing, you could, if you're charging in a driveway, maybe if you're on an outlet that's outside, just buy an outlet cover. You can buy blocking outlet covers for as little as $20 or less.
Oh, wow.
And, one thing that I'll do, I keep my Tesla parked in my driveway, so I'll charge it occasionally. I typically charge it while I'm here at work, but on the weekends, a lot of times. So I keep the plug side of it on an inside outlet in the garage, and I just keep that 4 or 5 feet of charge cable comes straight from the door up to my car, and I keep my car backed up to the garage. It's not very visible, and what is visible is not easily seen. Plus, with the Tesla, they lock.
Yeah.
Somebody cut the cable for my car, they're still not gonna be able to unplug the charge cable.
So that was a piece that I was confused about, because my understanding, so I've seen videos of people taking Teslas off chargers, right? But anytime I don't first unlock the port, there's not a way for me to do that. At least with the Trident connector.
With the Trident connector, but if you use the adapter with the J1772 connector, you don't have that.
That's true.
That's true. And the same does hold true. We own a Volvo. I've told people here several times. Our Volvo XC40 Recharge is the same way as the Tesla. Once that cable's plugged in, it's locked. And if you don't have your car key with you, you can press the thing to unplug the cable and it won't do anything. You cannot unplug the cable unless you have your remote with its RFID on your person.
Interesting.
So, George has another question for us.
I did want to say, for the J1772 connectors, they do sell a lock as well. So if you have a Tesla and you have the adapter for public charging or what have you, and you're worried about that, they do sell a lock on eBay that you put in between the adapter and the charger, and I believe there's a key to it.
Oh,
so
that's
you
pretty
lock
cool.
those in, and then there's a key to it which you can unlock once you're done, and it prevents anybody from unplugging it.
Now, I just hope you don't lose your keys.
That's true. No, if anybody, I'm going to avoid getting that lock, because if anybody's going to lose the keys, it's going to be me.
Well, we got one of our guys over at Gruber Motors. I remember he got stuck up in northern Arizona. He called in late said, "I'm going to be late to work. I'm in Payson. My keys are in the lake."
Oh, how did that happen?
He was fishing with his kids and thought he lost his car keys, and so he went looking around in his pocket for them, and they fell out of his pocket into the lake.
Oh no!
So he was able to retrieve them because they were shore fishing.
Okay,
but of course, by that time, the car that he had was an ICE vehicle, and it only opened with the remote, and the remote was dead because it got wet. Yeah,
so rough.
George, to answer George's question here, which is, have you guys seen the new Cybertrucks that Elon wrapped as a Ford Lightning?
We sure have.
We sure have. In fact, do we have pictures of that?
We do. I put one in the images folder that is Cybertruck V F-150 Lightning, if we want to pull that up. So looking at the Cybertruck, I thought it'd be nice to do a little bit of a comparison next to a Ford F-150 Lightning, to see, and I try to get the same angles close as possible, but I'd say Tesla did a pretty good job.
That's a heck of a wrap. Those door handles look real door handles.
Yeah, they do.
Now, one of the questions that both was popping up on the article and that I'm going to have for you, what about the frunk in the Cybertruck?
Yeah, so that frunk doesn't look like there's too much room in there. I love how these pictures came out and everybody's like, look at the wrap, or look at the wrap. But I think this is the first time we've ever seen the Cybertruck with the frunk open.
I don't think I've ever seen it with it closed. Yeah.
Or with it open, right?
Yeah. I mean, with it open.
Yeah. No, I think that was kind of like the hidden gem in these pictures, but it's looking pretty packed. Now, you had an experience with, I believe it was a Kia.
Yeah.
Right. And it didn't have a frunk.
No, I didn't. Before getting my Volvo for several years, over 5 years, I owned a Kia Soul EV. That was the car that got me into electric vehicles, in fact. It was a 2015. It was my first push-button start car, and the zippy little thing, loved it. It was great. It was more of a city driver. It only had about 90 to 95 miles of range, one electric motor in the front, and what you have is a frunk in a Tesla or in most of these other vehicles there, you just opened up, and right there's your motor. And so it didn't have a frunk at all. Your 12-volt battery sitting right there, your electric motor's right there, whatever cooling that needs to take place for the battery would be right there. It reminded me of a standard car. So if the Cybertruck ends up not having a frunk, it would not be the first EV that did not have a frunk.
No, that's true. I mean, with a bed too, and all the space it has in it, it's not really necessary, right? But I'm personally thinking it's going to look a lot more like a Roadster trunk, right? And the Roadsters don't have a frunk either.
No, the Roadsters don't have a frunk, and they have that little tiny trunk. It's 12 inches deep or something like that.
Yeah,
and about 12 inches front to back, and about so deep, and about the width of the car. If there's any, I can't tell from the pictures here if there's any kind of a liner or anything that goes in front of the machinery that's there. Yeah, there could be though.
Yeah, I feel like there will be at the very, even if it's not really useful. I'm sure they're gonna have a liner to keep it in line with their image or how Tesla does things, which is smooth, efficient, clean. But like I said, I think it's going to be a very narrow, deeper type of frunk for charging cables or a car cover, maybe truck cover in this case.
You know, my favorite thing about this whole picture actually of the Cybertruck is that it's the first one I've ever seen that kind of gives me some perspective on exactly what it is size-wise. It's hard to tell if that, before in pictures I've seen, it's really hard to tell what the size of the thing is, and it looks big. It looks almost like Hummer big, and it very frankly, and I know I'm about to say something sacrilegious to Tesla people. The jokes that were made when the Cybertruck was first introduced were like graphics of a Lego block with a Lego triangle put on top of it. And that is what some of these pictures of the Cybertruck have reminded me of, is just a couple of Legos with wheels on the bottom.
100%. It's a poorly rendered vehicle.
Yeah. And but this here, now you're seeing kind of you've got the wheel wells, you've got the whole look, and you have some perspective. That picture is cropped, but the full picture has a mechanic walking around. And it makes it look like, oh, wow, This thing could be the size of, somewhere between the current Ford Maverick and the Ford Ranger, or maybe like a Toyota Tacoma or something like that. And that, to me, that's just a lot more attractive.
Totally. I mean, looking at those lifts too, I immediately use like you use the mechanic. I use as a reference for size. I use the lifts because while I don't think we have those exact lifts, we have very similar lifts. Right, and if we just imagine a Roadster sitting right where that is, you can get a good perspective on how big that truck is. And I would say it's on par with the Toyota Tacoma, with the newer ones.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that the footprint of a Model S is going to be almost the same as the footprint of that.
Yeah,
because the Model S runs about 18 feet or a little plus or minus. So if I think of the front to back, and by contrast, that Ford Lightning's about a 20 to 21 foot long car. And it's going to be wider and taller than the Model S. The Cybertruck, while it's obviously going to be taller than the Model S, being more of a pickup truck style, it's going to be shorter than the F-150.
I would venture to say that it might be just as narrow as the Model X or Model Y, for simplicity's sake in providing.
Sure. Plus, they're trying to use a common or move toward a common structured battery pack amongst their different models. We know they're using 4680 cells. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do the same.
I agree. I think they're taking notes from Canoo.
Oh yeah, they might be. They might be. And George, you're right. They did say, Tesla did say on their investor call when they talked about the Cybertruck most recently that the resized Cybertruck will fit in a standard size garage, and that it was going to be the only vehicle ever made less than 19 feet with a 6-foot truck bed and 4 full-size doors.
It's going to be so cool. I can't wait to see one of those in a garage.
Yeah, I agree. While we're talking Cybertruck, I learned more about the number of reservations that they have.
Yeah.
So during the last earnings call, Elon Musk said that demand is so far off the hook, you can't even see the hook. Jesse, you remember telling us that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The demand is so far off the hook, you can't even see the hook. As part of the last earnings call.
Okay, after the Cybertruck?
Yes, for the Cybertruck there. On Friday, we learned a little bit more about what that means. As of 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday, July 21st, 2023, there are 1,943,876 active reservations for the Cybertruck.
My goodness.
Just under 2 million.
That's an absurd amount of reservations. And I was talking with Jesse last week about, maybe I'll, throw in a Cybertruck reservation and you can get it in 5 or some odd years. And Jesse went ahead and ran the math on it, and he came up with if they had all of the gigafactories running at the same time producing only Cybertrucks, it would still take about 4 to 5 years for, if you were at the top of this list or at the bottom of the list, for you to get your truck.
That's just amazing. That's just wow. Well, also at $100 per pre-order, because that's what it costs. Tesla has raised almost $200 million on the promise of something in the future.
So what you're telling me is all I have to do is get in front of a big enough audience, say something, and I could have $200 million. Okay.
Exactly. In fact, if Cybertruck does sell for the expected average price of $50,000, so that takes into account those that may have single motor and sell for less, that takes into account some of the extended higher end features and sell for more. Tesla has $100 billion with a B dollars worth of business in their pipeline. Now,
that's just an astronomical number. Along with the 1.9 million reservations, that number, I don't think we're capable of understanding how incredibly large that is.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand. You think about, okay, Tesla reported earnings from all lines. So that's solar, that's stationary power, that's all car models, everything. $24.5 billion in Q2 of 2023. And that was their best quarter ever.
Mm-hmm.
This is more than 4 quarters all out of Tesla revenue. To me, I think the Cybertruck in another 12 months, we're going to be talking about the Model Y being the second best-selling car in Tesla's lineup.
I sure hope so. I think you're on track with that, Mark. I think we're going to see these things kind of explode and be everywhere.
Yeah, I think so too. The amount of press that we're getting from things like these pictures is crazy. Tesla is not having to advertise anything.
No.
And
no,
they sat there at 1.5 million or so reservations for a few months. We were talking about that. Oh yeah, the Cybertruck 1.5 million. How many people are really reserving? Well, now they said that these are active reservations. So these are people that haven't had them and then canceled or anything like that. So it's something else.
That's a lot.
So Michael Aldea has joined us, and good morning as well, Michael. He says the real headlights on the CT on the Cybertruck are just above the bumper, and they shine between the bumper and the hood.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that the United States has moved forward with allowing new headlight designs, because for a couple generations, headlights had to either be square, round, and incandescent, and so on and so forth.
Really?
Yeah, U.S. was way behind the curve.
That makes, I'm sure there's some history to it as far as why that was the case.
I don't know exactly why, other than possibly a political thing.
Oh, great.
If you're making this gorgeous BMW that has adaptive headlights that turn as you turn, and it's going to, it could be taking the market by storm, but those adaptive headlights are illegal in the United States. Guess who benefits?
The companies that are not doing that same thing.
That's right. That's right.
Well, call me the headlight hunter. I will go ahead and dig into that before the next show.
Yeah,
figure out exactly why.
You can do that. I'd appreciate that.
Because the headlights are like the eyes of the car.
Yeah.
Right. When you speak with somebody that has beautiful eyes, it's hard to think about anything other than that. Right. When you look at a car that's got just these sharp, amazing headlights, it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. You could, a G-Wagon, which I think are the ugliest things on the planet. If you threw good headlights on those things, I might actually consider one. Right. They're such a fundamental part of the car, and to hear that they're limited, that was disappointing. I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out.
I don't think that's the case any longer. I'd love to hear your take on what has happened in the last few years.
I'll figure
Just
it
seeing
out.
what's happened with all of the new headlight designs that have come out and are coming out in the next few years. I think that the law was finally changed, but there was a long time that the United States had this archaic law on the books that really applied more to 1960s and 70s style cars than they did to today's.
Interesting.
And so Mark James has joined us, and he says, my Tacoma has 4 regular doors and a 6-foot bed, but I don't have a clue how long it is. Mark, I'll bet you that your Tacoma is a little bit longer than 19 feet. And the reason I would say that, because I've seen some of these Tacomas. My niece has a Tacoma with the four doors, the 6-foot bed. Beautiful trucks, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. But when you look at the hood, that hood comes out 4.5 feet as well. So you're probably talking more than 19 feet long. Not sure of that, but let us know, Mark.
Yeah.
Would appreciate it.
Then George says, what size wiper blade on the Cybertruck? Did the original Roadster have one wiper blade also? I know the answer to the latter question there, yes. The Roadster does have one single wiper blade, so does the Semi. Now, have we found anything out about the size of the Cybertruck's blade?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
My guess is probably off, because I think I originally guessed 16 feet. Those blades are massive.
When extended, yeah.
No, the most accurate speculation that I've heard, because it truly is just speculation right now, is that the blade on the Cybertruck is going to be somewhere around 4 feet. and that it's likely going to be a 2-blade setup where you have one wiper blade here and you have the next one here. And when they're not in use, there's a mechanism that will fold over one blade, and so it'll just sit like a 2 blades. There have been pictures of that. There have been pictures of a single blade. We don't really know yet.
We'll have to see. I mean, we did see pictures of the Cybertruck in the mud,
Yes.
right? And it didn't look like that wiper blade was getting the entire windshield.
No, it did not. And that's a legit question too, because the U.S. government has some standards about how much windshield has to be covered with wiper blades. So, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see if I think it'd be hysterical if for some reason Cybertruck was allowed to pass without being able to clear the passenger side of the window. You go out four-wheeling and throw the windshield wiper on, and your passenger is staring at mud while you're going and doing your thing.
That'd be great. That'd be great. There's a, last time on Thursday, we were talking about cute EVs, aesthetically pleasing EVs. Now there's a picture, if you could pull up, Jesse, it's called the XEV. Pete sent us an article on Facebook talking about it, this XEV just a little bit. In fact, it was a post by Tech Dad. So that's why you have the little logo up in the front, but this is the manufacturer logo of the XEV. Now, how many parts do you think this car has?
My guess is 50.
You're not that far off. See, the claim to fame for the XEV is that it is a 3D printed car. All of the major parts and components, I'm going to assume other than like glass, are 3D printed. It has a total of 57 parts.
It's close.
You're close. You're very
Almost there.
close. You're
Almost
very
there.
close. And so this little cute EV, it's called the Yo-Yo. And XEV is the manufacturer. It's a small Italian startup company. They've been working on this little car since about 2016, and its claim to fame is that it is the world's first and possibly only completely 3D printed car. By utilizing the 3D printing technology, XEV reduced the parts to 57. What this means is that this car weighs about 480 kilos, which is just roughly 1,000 pounds. So a little light thing. It's about 8 feet long, about 4.5 feet wide. And so it's a little smaller than the Smart 4.2. Because it's so light, though, it has a surprising range of almost 100 miles. And because it's 3D printed, the manufacturing process is less harmful to the environment than most other car manufacturers have.
I was going to say, just looking at this vehicle, I mean, it looks 3D printed. Just the design of it looks like something that was created for an ease of production.
Yeah, and this is a city dweller's car now. It's not one that we can take. We can't take it here in Arizona and take it out on the highway because it's top speed. It has 2 modes: an eco mode, top speed 40 miles an hour. It has a sport mode, which to me, a car like that with something that you would call sport seems like an oxymoron. But
amen.
Anyway. It will go as high as 55 miles an hour in sport mode.
So that can drive on the local streets here in Phoenix, because in the 35 we tend to go around 45 to 55, and on the freeway we're upwards 80 to 100, pretty average. You get run over by Aaron's diesel truck and they wouldn't even notice.
Yes, you could. It does seat 2 people, though. Now, on the manufacturer side, I went a little deeper, went on the manufacturer side, and they talk about, it's big enough to hold a ballerina and a rugby player.
Interesting.
The battery pack is also a kind of an interesting and unique thing. It is LFP, so the lithium iron ferrous. It's actually 3 batteries.
Okay.
Each battery is about 53 pounds. And these batteries, the cool thing about them is they're light. They're small enough and light enough that you drive up to the changing station. Somebody comes out, pulls your batteries out, puts 3 new batteries in, and within 5 minutes, you're off and running again with a full charge.
So we've got a new breath of life into the EV charging stations.
Yes.
Or not charging stations.
In the battery changing stations.
Swapping stations, yeah.
Yes. So a battery swap takes about 4 minutes. Each battery, if you extrapolate a typical automotive lead-acid battery, you own a 1993 Ford, right? Okay, and I own a 96 Chevy. Our batteries for those, they're a little bit bigger than normal for lead-acid batteries. Oh, I call it bigger than normal. They're for the larger pickup trucks.
Yeah. Same.
And they're about 50 pounds. Now, we know that lithium iron phosphate has less energy density than lead acid. And so that lithium iron phosphate battery is probably about twice the size.
Okay.
That's my speculation there.
I mean, that would make sense. I would love to see them because what I imagine is either in the front or the back. You've seen GoPro batteries. You know how they're kind of shaped with a little ledge where you just kind of pull it out?
Yep.
I'm imagining something like that in a row, kind of like a Roadster sheets, where they plug in, they hook in, do all 3, close the thing, slide the little bar, and then it's good to go.
I would think so. This car does have a trunk too.
That's surprising.
You have the ability to put probably half a dozen grocery bags or a couple of carry-on size pieces of luggage in the back. So not a lot of room, but there's room for 2 people, room for a trunk. 100 miles of range, 55 miles an hour maximum speed. Pretty decent little city commuter car. And the price is right, I think. It's only sold in Europe, but the price goes anywhere from about 13,900 to 15,900 euros, which translate that to US dollars. You're talking about around 15.5 to 17.5. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a little bit more excuse me. That's a little less expensive than the Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the single seater with nowhere near as much room. I was going for about 18 to 19 new. I mean, that one had a top speed that was I don't know exactly what it was, but I've seen them on the freeway and they were managing.
Yeah.
So, that one wouldn't be able to do that, but it's right on par with the smaller EVs.
It really is. You know, the Kia Soul that I bought from 2015 had a 90-mile range on the battery. The first battery, they were having some issues with the charging and discharging systems, so the battery actually wore out fairly quickly. First battery wore out before I got the car. When I got it had 24,000 miles. Second battery wore out at about 40,000 miles, 45,000 miles. Once we got that changed, they also had put some changes into the charging and software and hardware on the battery. And when we sold that car, it was up over 90,000 miles, and the battery was still running at 93 to 96 miles of range. So it
Not
was
bad.
100%. There we go. Here's there's a yo-yo right there. Okay.
Now the battery pack, it looks similar to the GoPro.
Very similar.
Ah.
Very similar.
My instincts aren't always wrong. Interesting.
Nope, they're not. And so the cute little car. This car, one of the reasons you can see it with its battery changing station is that these cars have been sold since 2021. So they're actually been out there for a couple of years in Europe.
Interesting.
So hope for the best of success for the little cars. Little
Absolutely.
car guys like that.
I mean, this picture in the background that we have, that would be a perfect environment for that little car.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, I can't speak for its off-road capabilities, but you throw some large tires on there, get a little bit of a lift kit. I'm sure it's going to be doing great.
Yeah, it'll run over my Tonka truck.
Exactly. Exactly. Mark chimed in. He says the internet says the 2015 Tacoma goes up to 221.3 inches, so 18 and a half feet or something like that. My garage is 24 feet deep, so I have plenty of room. Nice.
But that's a great question mark, or a great thing that you mentioned. So here we're talking about an example, Toyota Tacoma, on a vehicle that's less than 19 feet with 4 full-size doors and a 6-foot bed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe Elon needed to research just a little bit more before he made that climb on the Cybertruck.
How does one forget about the Tacoma?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
but
it's Toyota.
the only problem with the Tacomas, though, is it's still not a full-size truck. If you want a full-size truck, then the Tundra is more of an equivalent to like the F-150 and the Cybertruck. So, and Tundras are harder to get inside a garage. F-150s are harder to get inside the garage. So they made the Tacoma and they made the Ranger. Those are easier to get inside a garage.
Yep. So I'm thinking the Cybertruck is more like the Ranger and the Tacoma, less like the F-150, the Chevy Silverado, the Dodge Ram.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes the Cybertruck even more appealing because it's performing at a, Tundra and F-150 level, but you got the size and shortness to where you could fit it inside a garage like a Toyota Tacoma.
That's a great point, Aaron.
That is a great point. And I think the general population is going to be much more interested in buying a Ranger, buying a Tacoma, buying one of these mid-sized trucks than a Tundra. In my looking for vehicles, I never once considered getting a Tundra or a Titan, right? Those just too much for a day-to-day. I don't need that, but a Tacoma, yeah, I can haul my dirt bike around with that. Go out to the track or do whatever, a Maverick or a Ranger. Yeah, perfect for that application. Yeah. And maybe, like with Mark, I'd even be able to get that in the garage. So if the Cybertruck is meeting all of the massive specifications for a full-size pickup in tow, range, and all that, but it's on that smaller compact size, heck yeah, that's what I want.
And I like it too because weight matters.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to towing capacity, Aaron, you're going to know this especially. Weight matters. Having a 5,000-pound pickup trying to tow an 8,000-pound trailer is much harder than having a 6,500-pound pickup trying to tow the same 8,000-pound trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a matter of power. It's that 5,000-pound pickup has a braking system for a 5,000-pound pickup.
Mm-hmm.
The Cybertruck, even though it's got the compact size, it's hitting the curb weight up around 6,700 pounds. If I remember right, please correct me if I'm wrong. But that means it's also got the weight of the larger vehicle, so it can handle the larger tow capacities because it has the better braking systems.
That's a good point, Aaron. Do you have anything to say on that matter?
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just copy and pasting Mark's next response going in there. If you guys want to read that real quick.
Sure. Mark says, I'd much rather have it be the size of the Tacoma. It's plenty big enough for me. I just want the better towing specs. I can only tow 7,500 pounds right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Mark, I agree.
Yeah, and you know what I'm very... I don't know what Toyota's doing. I know they seem to be really wanting to make hydrogen work, and it hasn't. It's just not hasn't been working. I don't know why they don't make an EV in a Tacoma.
Oh, I'd buy that right away.
I mean, I think that would be a great selling, vehicle. I mean, you would have a lot more torque, and you got the size of the Tacoma. Tacoma's one of the best selling, smaller trucks, in the world. I just don't understand that.
It's one of the best looking too.
Yeah.
I mean, there hasn't really been a pickup that's as appealing as Tacoma until the new Ford Rangers came out, or the Chevy Colorados came out, right? Everything in the mid to small size pickup truck market was just kind of ugly, little dinky trucks that are no real appeal to them. But then the Tacoma, solid, especially with the new body style.
Oh yeah,
solid truck.
Great looking pickup. I'm gonna admit though, guys, if I'm EV, I'm looking at the Lightning. I'm looking at the Revolution by Ram.
Mm-hmm.
I like that bigger size a little bit. If I'm ICE, and this will tell you a little bit. The pickup that I have right now, it's a 1996 Chevy K1500 with an 8-foot bed and an extended cab.
Mm.
So I have a 24-foot garage, and I have put it in there barely.
Hey, barely, but it works.
But it works. I like the bigger pickup trucks. Aaron, I know that your F-250 is about the same size as my Chevy.
Yeah, and I'm a Ford guy. I like their cabs. I just feel like they're spacious. That's why I always tend to go with the bigger vehicles. I can fit, a family of 5 inside there and be comfortable with it. Tacomas, Rangers, even the Colorados, they're great work trucks. If you're, when I was doing pools, it was a great to get inside that Colorado and put some stuff inside there, and work out of it solo. But when I've got a family, man, those F-250s and even the F-150, so much nicer, more room.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
I hear you there. And if ever Chevy or General Motors comes out with the SUV equivalent of the Tacoma, I'm sorry, of the Tahoe / Yukon, I'm all in. I would drop everything and figure out what it takes to buy one of those.
I agree. Now I had a thought.
Yeah.
What if we get one of those yo-yos?
Okay.
Find a way to get our hands on a Cybertruck.
Okay.
I think we can put a yo-yo on the back of a Cybertruck.
Oh, I'm sure we could.
6-foot bed, 8-foot car, get some straps. I think we can make it work.
I'll bet we can make it work because that yo-yo is also narrow enough that I'll bet we can make it work.
I think so too. There was a little piece that I forgot to touch on with the yo-yo.
Yeah.
So it's considered a quadricycle. And when we met before the show, you had stated that.
Right.
And what I just thought quadricycle is an unnecessarily complicated word for go-kart. It's a little vehicle, but it turns out it's actually got its roots a lot further back. So Henry Ford, his first vehicle, he called the quadricycle. And Jesse, when you can, we've got a picture that says quadricycle origins. His first vehicle that he designed and made was a quote quadricycle, and you'll see why it sounds more like bicycle than car.
Yeah, that's right. The XEV Yo-Yo is considered more by the European governments considered more of a quadricycle than it is a car. And I didn't research enough to find out exactly why, but then you look at this and you're like, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. You've got, and you said Henry Ford built this, right?
Yes. Yeah, he did. This is, it's got a rear wheel drive motor. So he made, kind of an e-bike before e-bikes were a thing. Cause you see it's got the pedal and the chain and all that.
I do.
But yeah, this was made by Henry Ford. The current qualifications for a quadricycle in France is it's got to be 4-wheeled, can't go faster than 45 kilometers an hour or 28 miles. Or I'm sorry, kilometers an hour at 45, and then 28 miles an hour, and weighs less than 425 kilograms or 937 pounds. So the yo-yo is a little outside that realm, but I think it skirts it just right to be able to be qualified or classified as a quadricycle, which is just so strange that it is such an old word, such an old phrase, but it's new to me.
Everything that's new is old, actually. Just all that. How many times have you and I both talked about it's happened before? How many times have I gone off on the history of the automobile and all the things that we've done? So you're right. This is to that extent, I have to say I'm not surprised.
Yeah, when you put it that way, I'm not surprised anymore either. History repeats itself, and apparently so does language.
By all means. Talking about repeating and new cars, Road and Track came out with an article about the new EVs that are going to be coming out in the next 5 years. Now, to give a little bit of context and background, I remember going to a business group that I did a presentation for them, telling them a little bit about Gruber Motors and why we think that Gruber Motors which was at the time even beyond I would call the bleeding edge of technology. And the reason why was this was 2018. They said, by 2023, there are going to be at least 40 new models from 20 different manufacturers that are all battery electric vehicles. I didn't take the time to do to look now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we are not far off of that 40 new models from 20 different manufacturers today.
Yeah.
Just this weekend, I saw a little Fiat driving down the road with what in Arizona is a little blue sky plate, which means it was an electric vehicle. Didn't know that Fiat made them. I knew that BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen has some beautiful vehicles. Well, up in the next 5 years, there's going to be 51 new models coming from close to 20 manufacturers, and you and I were talking. It doesn't even include some of the more prominent manufacturers that we know about.
It's missing more than a few notable candidates.
Yes, most definitely. So, while Jesse's pulling up the article, there will be a few that I want to highlight on this list because we don't have time today to talk about the entire list. It would be a fun conversation, but kind of a long one for people.
Yeah. And before we jump into this, we want to hear what y'all have to say about these vehicles. There's some really interesting ones, so we would love to get your take. A lot of you guys have hysterical comments. I always love reading them, and some of you guys have really, really, really valid and valuable points. So please chime in.
Yeah, we really encourage this. So first on the list that we can pull up is going to be Canoo.
Woo!
2026. Yeah. The Canoo, I know I'm probably making fun of them, but I like to call it the Canoo people mover. Canoo's little van and Canoo's pickup truck.
Wait, what do you need me to pull up Road and Track? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's a text file in our morning show that has the URL for that link. And if you could go ahead and pull that link open.
Canoo is a little out of order. It starts with some other ones, but
yeah, it does. It starts with some other ones, but there's the pickup truck from Canoo, and we're gonna jump around a little bit, Jesse. So I'll try to keep it roughly in order, top to bottom. After you get through the Apple car, which has been advertised, and Audi has a couple, and Cadillac has its ugly car, and but then you get to Canoo. You got the Canoo pickup truck, and just a slick looking little thing. And right under it is they call it the lifestyle vehicle. I like to call it their people mover, but again, I guess it's another one of those entries that I would call cute EVs.
I would agree. So what's really cool about this specific one that Jesse has up right now is in the back row of seats, it's not just a row of seats as you would have in a typical van or people mover or what have you. It's a U-shaped seating arrangement. So there's a massive center of space between the driver and the passengers where it's almost like a couch setup. So you can sit around the edges, around the sides. You can have your back to the side. As you're driving, you have this massive space where you can go throw a table in there, play some cards, flip the seat. I think you can turn the seats around in the front so you can flip around and host people and
that's
relax
cool.
in there. I might be wrong, don't quote me. But it's a pretty cool thing.
That's a pretty cool concept. Yeah. I like that a lot. The next one I was, and I'm going to say, Richard, stop me if I jump past one that you want to see.
Okay.
There's the next one. If you wanted to continue scrolling down, Jesse, go down to the Chevy Corvette. The 2025 Chevrolet Corvette EV.
I think Chevy heard Pete's rant.
I think they might have. Chevy is developing a Corvette, and they're talking about there hasn't been details if it's going to be the current Generation 8 body style or if it's going to be a new Generation 9 body style. But that's, to me, in spite of the camo on the car, that's a pretty sick looking car.
Yeah, it totally is. I remember back when Corvette or Chevy switched from the previous body style to the one that they have currently. And you remember what a shock that was? It went from this kind of rounded edge, little funky looking, kind of trying to be a sports car looking car with a great heritage. I'm talking about the 90s, early 2000s one that just was a little funky, and then they went to this sharp
Oh yeah.
super attractive, super fast and mean looking Corvette, I immediately thought, I feel so bad for the people that bought the car brand new the year before.
You know, the Mustang was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
The-
Oh yeah,
the-
from the 90s weird. Just what was going on back then?
I don't know. They had lost their way. It was definitely not the style. And then Mustangs came out in I think it was 04 or 05, and they did the redesigned body style, harken back to the old days, same type of thing. I felt bad.
Just looked better. Yeah, you felt bad
I
for
felt
the
bad
people
for 'em.
who bought it the year before. But this body style is still in style. They could stack that up against any car. It still looks sharp.
Yeah.
You know, the current Corvettes on the road, especially was it C2s? Or I forget the name of it.
I don't remember.
It's a slightly different body style, but they're the top trim package of the Corvette. I think they're like $100,000, something like that. It's beautiful. It's great. You don't need to change anything. I'm not against advancing, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, Michael Aldea has first comment for us. Love the comment. If an EV is just a computer on wheels, will the Apple car come with Windows? Michael, thumbs up, man.
Boo. That was great.
The next car I wanted to pull a little attention to, staying in the sports car theme, the 2024 Dodge Charger Daytona SRT. Dodge decided that they were going to retire their Charger and their Challenger brand, but it looks like they're going to bringing it back as an EV. So love seeing that.
You know what this kind of reminds me of? Is it Knight Rider?
Oh yeah, Kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a 1979 Trans Am, probably one of the most classic. That 79 to 82 model of Trans Am was that Pontiac Firebird Trans Am was awesome.
Yeah, great looking car. I'm not so sure about this one.
I like the lines overall. I like the lines a lot. I think it reminds me a little bit of a Camaro.
Yeah.
But one of the latecomers to the EV game is Honda, and they're going to be coming out with a car in 2024. The Honda Prologue. That's going to be on the list. And then and we have our first new entrant as far as new companies is Faraday. The Faraday Future. If you wanted to scroll down to that, Jesse, there's the Prologue right there, and then the Faraday Future. So they've had it's been kind of hard for them to get there, but they're getting close. They think that they're going to have that out. Scrolling ahead just a little bit, we'll go past the Fiat, past the Fisker. Let's run all the way down to like the GMC Sierra, but that's a Chevy. Let's go all the way down here to the Jeep Wrangler.
I'm excited about this one.
I'm really excited about the Jeep. You know what that one reminds me of?
Bronco. Yeah, it does.
This is the first design that I've seen of all the vehicles that are out there and of all the ones that are coming, where I could truly say the person who doesn't care about whether or not they're buying an electric vehicle might buy this car.
Agreed. You look at that and it's just a very well done vehicle. You know, if I wasn't into EVs, I'd buy it too, just for the way it looks. Yeah,
it looks like your very prototypical type Jeep Wrangler. The Wrangler community, the people that like Jeep Wranglers tend to be about as enthusiastic of a community as any that I've ever seen on any kind of car, including people with like the Tesla Roadsters. They're huge enthusiasts and fans of their vehicles. This one, I think, fits that mold really well. And we were talking just recently about the dip in EV sales that's made some of the press, and some of the speculation is all of the enthusiasts, all the people who are the front runners or the early adopters have now either purchased their car, or that market's starting to get close to being saturated. And the market, the bigger market that's out there to tap is the average Joe or average Jane who says, I just want a car that works. So if this car ends up being reliable and just working, it's got the design to appeal to that segment, I think.
100%. You know, we're going to have to be in line with price as well, you know, because there's subsets of that group
Yes.
that does not care, right? Not that they don't care about the environment or anything like that. They're just not sold on the EV thing yet. People who just, it's not at the top of their mind all the time. People that, they also need something that they can afford as well. A subset of those people are people who are like, well, the prices are all out there. I would consider it, but I can't even get that far yet because the prices are so out there. So
yeah, so it's going to, and that's right. This is the market that they're not buying it because it's an EV. They're buying it because they like the look and it's a nice vehicle at a good price.
yeah, exactly.
So go a couple more down. There's the Jeep Wagoneer that I really happen to like the look of. That's about as stylish and nice of an SUV style car as you see. And then
well, real quick with the Wagoneer,
yeah,
that name might not be final. They may not coin it as the Wagoneer. It is just a placeholder at this point.
I didn't know that.
It might come out as something different, something all new together.
Okay. And then if we want to go down just a little further, there's the Kia, and Kia has a couple of entries out here. The EV9. I've seen the Kia Telluride a little bit driving on the freeways here in Phoenix, and this looks a lot like that Telluride.
Oh yeah.
Again, it's more of a traditional SUV style car with some updates for the EV and design updates, but more evolutionary than revolutionary. And to me, I love the lines. I think they're beautiful lines.
Oh yeah. No, this just the whole car market as a whole right now, the design is phenomenal. They're doing so good with what they're doing. But yeah, my mom has a Telluride. When I scrolled past this, I thought, oh, an electric Telluride. No, it's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Really like this car.
Yeah. Going down just a couple more, we finally can see Lucid's entry, the Lucid Gravity, due out in 2024.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
When you say 2024, are we going to start seeing these in quarter 4 of this year?
Absolutely. I think we're going to start seeing some of these in quarter 4 of this year.
Okay.
These are the model years that we're talking about when we're going to see the release. And in a lot of them, you might not see until later 2024 as well. But the Lucid is here. And while we're talking Lucid here, I'm going to talk about one of the entries that I was surprised is not on the list. The Rivian R2 series.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Rivian, I was shocked because Rivian is, they're one of the EV manufacturers that, you know, they have their ups, they have their downs, but the fact is they're delivering cars.
Yeah. They should very much so be on this list.
And they've talked about how they're developing the R2. They're developing the R2T, which is going to be their new pickup truck, developing eventually the new R2S, which will be the Rivian SUV. The 2 is their second generation. It's going to be more of a 2-motor rather than a 3 or 4-motor layout, and they're going to be less expensive. So they realize that they're kind of pricing themselves out of the market, I think.
Yeah.
With their smaller R1T truck and the R1S. But they did not make this particular list.
Aptera didn't either.
That's true. Aptera
Crazy.
didn't. You know, Electromechanica didn't with the Solo. Neo didn't, although I think they were going to be out here. So there's a few that are.
Fisker?
Fisker does have one on here.
Oh, they do. I thought it was Faraday. Or do they both?
They both.
Oh, okay.
They both. Fisker does have one on here. Fisker has the Ocean. They are going to have a new model coming out. I did want to highlight the most boring of the 51.
Yeah.
If you can go down, Jesse, to the Mercedes-Benz. And it's the Mercedes-Benz EQA. I'm sorry, guys. My thought on this one was this is the same crossover SUV that we've seen the other 25 manufacturers make since 2006.
Yeah. I mean, how crazy is it that the brand that is supposed to be the pinnacle of luxury design and performance is now Honda in 2005?
Yeah.
What's going on, Mercedes? Are you okay over there?
I would certainly hope so.
Maybe they submitted a wrong picture or something.
Yeah.
Well,
Looks kind of boring.
The next one on the list, Jesse, the G-Wagon, the electric G-Wagon, same thing. It looks like a normal G-Wagon, but they took a sandpaper to the clay model and just rounded all the edges.
Yeah.
There's nothing really spectacular about this car. I wouldn't even consider buying it if I had the money.
I would argue that somewhere between a quarter and a third of this list are cars that are like the crossover SUV like Mercedes had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really disappointed to see that, because Mercedes has such a good reputation. But on the other end, on the beautiful cars, few cars are more beautiful than the Polestar 6. If you wanted to scroll down and pull that one up just a little bit.
Yeah, still on the Mercedes piece, it's just disappointing. They do. It seems like they got stuck.
Yeah,
with where they're at. They didn't need to adapt with the rest of the market, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. So I eventually I'll bet we'll see one of these driving down, and man, that's another one of those just sick looking cars.
Just gorgeous.
So Mark James is asking, is the Cybertruck on the list? I'll give you the hint. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the only Tesla on the list, though. We're going to get to that here in just a second. I do have to say I want to give props to the Ram that's coming up. If you wanted to scroll down to that one, again, it's a classic traditional pickup truck. I love the look. I really love the look. For me, it's between this one and the Ford Lightning as to which I get. I've got on the early list, so I'm hopeful. It's going to be a conversation with the wife as to whether or not I get to make the reservation when they come out.
Boss, yeah.
I'm hopeful to be able to do that. I tried to make the reservation for the Ford, and I was just a little bit too late. Another one that I thought was really intriguing, if you go down just a couple more pictures, Volkswagen came up with their Scout. The Volkswagen Scout. And I thought, well, wow, I haven't heard the Scout name since International Harvester days from the 80s. Well, sure enough, 3 years ago, Volkswagen bought out the rights to the name of the Scout. They basically bought out Navistar, who International Harvester became, and Navistar moved away from the car market, and they're going to have a Scout pickup and a Scout SUV. That is a competitor to the Bronco.
I was going to say earlier we were talking about it, and this was shaping up to be competitor to, or this in the past, right? The original Bronco, the iconic ones, it was a competitor to them. What do you think this is going to compete with? We don't have an electric Bronco for it to go toe to toe with. What do you think it's going to compete with here?
Might compete with the R1S from Rivian.
Similar body lines, just from the silhouette.
Yeah, there are some similar body lines there. Other than that, maybe that Kia that we were looking at that looks similar to the Kia Telluride.
Yeah.
So there's a couple there, but by and large, that SUV, it's a unique look and a very nice look. I hope to see those on the road.
I hope that we can get a shell version of these. Like the Bronco, right? Well, not a shell version, but a version where you can remove the back, right? Take off the top, take the doors off. You've got an open vehicle like a Jeep Wrangler. Yeah. Right. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah. So now almost the next one on the list was the 2026 Sony Afeela. Tell me what you said earlier about the Afeela. How did it get its name?
So I look when this car was first announced, I was a little confused by the name Afeela. I was like, okay, well, that seems a little weird to me, but it's probably means something, maybe an acronym for something, or in another language, maybe. Who knows? No, they want you to feel the car, right? They want you to feel as part of it, so they made it the feel. What?
Okay.
Sony,
I-
what are you doing, dude?
I'm thinking the marketing people got too involved in the naming.
I think they were a little too touchy-feely.
A little too hands-on, huh?
Is this Sony's first car ever?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yes, it is. And now saving the best for last, I think. First off is the Cybertruck. They're calling this a 2025 vehicle. I know that we're going to start seeing sales in these in 2024. And then right after that, the 2025 Tesla Roadster. Predictions from Road and Track is that Tesla will have its new second generation Roadster finally ready and on the road before the end of 2025.
You know, and I sure hope so, because we have to get one in the shop as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if it's just for stop by and a quick 0 to 60. You know?
Yeah, and quick 0 to 60. Maybe we get the thrusters on and it'll be 1.1 seconds quick.
Wow, how crazy! I mean, I'm not trying to black out. I'm trying to get the heart pumping a little bit, but I have limited experience with extreme G's.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that anyone who wants to drive one of these Roadsters needs to take a course by going to Magic Mountain or something like that. So, well, as we close up, couple of comments here. First, George from Watch Rich Rebuilds channel. Do you guys have any secret projects that Gruber Motors is building for fun, like a Tesla? Well,
it wouldn't be secret if we told you, George.
Exactly. And he's talking about like a Tesla golf cart, a go-kart, a lawnmower, or well, I'll leave it with what Richard said. If it was, if we said it wouldn't be secret.
Well, we'll just, Tesla has the lawnmower covered with the Elon. So I'm not usually one to repeat jokes, but you kind of walked into it, George.
Yes. And another one that George said he couldn't believe didn't make the list, Nikola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, well, but of course, Nikola they don't know who they are. They were a pickup truck maker, and then they were a large truck maker.
Mm-hmm.
And they were an EV maker, and then they're a hydrogen maker. Now, most recently, here in Phoenix anyway, they're a burner.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, literally, there were some Nikola semi-trucks that caught fire and burned. That was about a month ago. And they think it was arson or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, that unfortunately. But this last weekend, one of the Nikolas that had burned and was still kind of a shell caught fire again.
Interesting.
They are speculating that the heat caused the battery to overheat, the partly burned battery to overheat. And because there was no cooling mechanism for the battery, it eventually went into thermal runaway and caught fire spontaneously.
Poor guys can't catch a break, huh?
Yeah. So
that's rough. That's disappointing.
I do feel for them on that. That's unfortunate. This tells you guys a little bit about what we're going through here in Phoenix, though. If cars were spontaneously catching fire,
coolant's important.
So I'm going to believe that that's more press speculation than anything, but you never know. But so it looks like we've pretty well got our questions out of the way today. This kind of covers our topics. Thank you guys for joining us. We love the comments that you have. Be safe. Take care of yourselves in the heat out there. We're going to be here tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Mountain Standard Time. I'll be here with Victor as we go through the Tesla Roadster Roundtable. Then we will be here, Richard and I, Thursday, 10 a.m. and do more. Talk about the news, EVs, everything, green power, and we might even slip a little hydrogen or AI or something like that in there.
Whatever's new in the world between today and Thursday, we'll have ready for you.
Yes. So take care, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Take care.